Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the second tutorial of the course. This is the pre-final exam tutorial to get you some extra practice for a good preparation for the finals. And in this one, as we promised, we will solve all the questions of the midterm, quiz 3 and quiz 4 for you. As we keep on telling you that you can use it in two ways. Each problem that we solve, you can solve it again as a practice so that you are practicing for the finals. And of course, it also gives you the solutions of the previous quizzes and exams and so on. So let us start with the midterm. Some parts of the midterm will of course not be valid for the final exam, but at least you would know the solutions and you can do further practice and become better in the course and so on. Question 1 was MCQs. So let us take a few examples. There are of course more than that, but just a few examples. Properties of a given material depend upon its structure and processing, geometry, right? So of course you know that geometry is not material data, right? Geometry is only design dependent. As long as the material is dependent, then yes, its structure affects the properties and the manufacturing process affects the properties. So the answer is structure and processing. Material properties change over time because of usage U, exposure to environment EE, cost C, and usage and exposure. So once again, right, properties do not change because of the cost. They definitely change by use. We apply loads and use it and so on, and exposure to environment like corrosion and so on. So usage and exposure to environment are the two things that change material properties over time. Dash can be used to select appropriate materials without detailed analysis, right? To select appropriate materials without detailed analysis. Heuristics, mechanical testing, computer simulation, hit and trial, right? So you see, mechanical testing can be used to select appropriate materials without detailed analysis. No, not just testing. Computer simulation, maybe. Hit and trial, maybe, right? But computer simulation is detailed analysis already. Heuristics is the word, heuristics, that over the years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, people have compiled heuristics, that these are the practical guidelines for selection of materials. And there are books like Ashby's book, which give you charts and so on for selection of materials based on heuristics. So this is the correct answer, though almost every answer looks to be correct. Dash materials are produced by living creatures, biological, bio-based, biomimetic, any of these. But if you know your chapter 9 on biological materials and so on, then biological materials is the only correct answer. Produced by living creatures, So that is biological materials. Primary function of a dash biomaterial is to provide physical support for the body. Structural or inert, functional, active, none of these. So you know that the name structural biomaterial or inert biomaterial is for those biomaterials which provide structural support, right? Physical support of the body like arms and legs and so on. So this is structural or inert biomaterial, of course not functional. Functional biomaterial or active biomaterial is like lungs and heart and so on, which do functions. So these were some examples of multiple choice. Let us now do some examples of true false type. A specific heat is a chemical property, right? So of course it's false. A specific heat is not a chemical property. It can be any other property, right? You can call it thermodynamic property, you can call it mechanical property. It is not a chemical property. Faster cooling rate gives steels of higher hardness. So this is obviously true. We have discussed it many times that if you cool something very quickly, then more martensite is formed and the steel becomes harder, right? So this is definitely true. Biomimetic materials are produced by living organisms, right? We have just done in the previous one that living organisms don't give biomimetic materials. Biomimetic are other materials which are copying, right? So this is obviously false. Artificial organs, pacemakers, controlled release implants, etc. are examples of structural biomaterials. Again false, because these are all functions. Artificial organs, pacemakers in hearts, controlled release implants. So these are all functional ones, right? Not a structural. So this is false because these are functional biomaterials, not structural. If a material is biocompatible, the body will not generate negative immune response. Right? Very true. If it is biocompatible, being biocompatible means there will be no immune response. If it is not biocompatible, then dangerous immune reactions can be there, right? So this is true. So these were, right, question 1, question 2 were the multiple choice and the true false. And initially we were doing only the introduction chapter and the biomaterials chapter mostly, and so on. So these many of these questions were from the general introduction to the whole course and from the biomaterials chapter. Let us now go to question 3. It was in more than one part. So question 3A, draw separate representative tensile test plots, one for a brittle material, one for a ductile material, right? So rough graph. Tensile test of course means stress strain. Label the plots with proper axis names and major mechanical properties. So write the names of the vertical and horizontal axes and mechanical properties. Indicate elastic and plastic regions. So it was, right, a very, I thought, very simple bonus type of question that just draw a rough stress strain diagram, and alhamdulillah majority of the class got it right. A few places here and there some people got small errors. So let us see. This, right, is an actual one. So forget about the numbers. But just say sigma here, epsilon here, and some units. If this is megapascal or psi, then it's okay. A strain of course is no unit. And this is a straight line region, then a curve region, and so on. So this is a representative plot, and the names are stress and strain, right? Now we know that, right, in the a straight line region, if this is a straight line here, then from 0 till here is the elastic region, because this ends at the elastic region, and after this everything is plastic, right? So if you draw this line and say to the left of it is elastic, to the right of it is plastic, so one part is covered, and then you see this is the slope of this line is E, the modulus of elasticity or the Young's modulus. The end of the straight line is the yield strength. The maximum point is the ultimate strength. This point is the fracture strength. So in the book they call it sigma S, sigma B, and so on. But if you write sigma U, ultimate strength, and sigma F, fracture strength, then this will be better. Right? And one thing which is not being shown here is that from here to here, the maximum strain is the ductility, right? So if you had written this much, I'll still take it to be right. But if you write here epsilon F epsilon F, epsilon at fracture as ductility, then this would be very nice. So this is a traditional ductile material, and this is a traditional brittle material, right? Its curve finishes almost at the yield point, almost at the yield point. It goes a little further, but it does not do a lot of plastic deformation. So mostly then yield point and ultimate strength and fracture strength are all the same, right? And of course, if this is the straight line, then all this is elastic and there is no plastic deformation, right? So this is major, that on the left of it you write elastic, but don't write plastic there. Some people did, but there is no plastic deformation. If the whole graph is finishing here, then there is no plastic deformation. You keep on increasing the stress, it suddenly breaks. So the strength may be very high, but there is almost no plastic deformation, right? So this was roughly the answer to these. Question 3b. A material has a circular flaw and an elliptical flaw 6 times longer than its maximum width. What would be the difference between the localized stress at the flaw in the two cases? So a very simple one, and this exact example is being done in the lectures, in the book, and so on, right? If there is any flaw, any defect, any crack, the crack can be a simple straight line, the crack can be a circle, the crack can be an ellipse, right? So if it is a circle, then there is just circular. If it is an ellipse, then there is major axis and minor axis, right? So major axis is the length, minor axis is the height or width. So, right, if one is A and the other is B, then A is equal to 6B or something like that. So it's very simple. And you know that the stress concentration factor is K is equal to 1 plus 2A upon B for an ellipse whose major axis is A and minor axis is B, right? So this is it. This is given in the book. This is given in the solved example. For a circle, A is equal to B, isn't it? For a circle, the length and the height of the circle are the same. So for the circle, A is equal to B. So K is equal to 1 plus 2, which is 3. So the stress concentration factor is 3. And for ellipse, for which A is 6 times B, so A upon B is 6. So 2 into 6 is 12 and 1 plus 2 is 13. So it will be 13 for that case. So this is right. For circular flaw, A is equal to B. So stress concentration is 3. Local stress as the flaw is 3 times the normal applied stress. For ellipse, A and B are this. So A is equal to, oh, this is typing mistake by me. This is 6 into 2, right? So this is 13. Sorry, right? This is typing error. This is 13. So, right? So at elliptical flaw is 13 times the applied stress, and so on. So this is it, that the stress for an elliptical flaw will be 13 times the applied stress, and the localized stress for a circular flaw will be 3 times. So this was the answer, and I thought that this is a bonus question because this is solved already. This is already solved. This is given as an example. This is one of the solved examples and so on. But sometimes during maybe the tension during the exam and so on, so some people got it wrong. But otherwise, this was supposed to be a very simple question so that you could gain a lot of marks.